everybody, it's MicheleMarieDalene. It is the 28th of February, 2015. It is the last day of the month. And today, yes, Mr. Cat, come on up. Oh, one cat was on me, and then he moved, and the other one wants to jump over and get attention. Anyway, of course, the only thing you're going to really see is your tail. You know that, right? Anyway, so let me get back to our video topic. Today I want to first of all apologize. I haven't done a video lately with you. I have been spending some time reminiscing and researching and exploring the computer you saw in the last video about the Commodore 64. And I did some research into what's going on with the Commodore 64. Despite the fact that the thing's 30 years old, there's still a lot of new developments that are being done in the Commodore 64 scene. One of the first things is now we have added capacities in the last 10 years, give or take, to add things like IDE hard drives, secure digital, compact flash storage, to the Commodore 64. There's now an internet Ethernet connection cartridge available, so you can actually use the Commodore 64 to access the internet. How's that for cool? There is, but it seems to be mostly a scene that mostly seems to be located in Germany and the Eastern Europe. It doesn't seem to be too much going on in the United States, although there are some things that are going on. There's just not a tremendous lot. The thing I found out about my Commodore 64 is I was not the kernel ROM I accidentally damaged originally. It was the SID chip. The problem is the Commodore 64C uses a SID chip that's a different number than the original chip, and the Commodore 64 original, which the original was 6581, and the new one is like 8580 or something, which is the new line of the SID. And the problem is with that SID is it's hard to find. There is more of the 6581s, but it's not necessarily drop-in pin compatible with the 8580 SID. So if you burn out your 8580, or at least 5, and you happen to see a 6581, please do not expect that it's going to plug right in and work. It's not. Okay. How did that happen, you ask originally? Well, it turned out that the positive 5 volts supply when my Commodore kept working, but the 9 volts AC had actually I got backwards. I'm sorry. Right. So 9 volts AC was still working, but the 5 volts DC wasn't working because of the fuse in the computer. And I discovered that the fuse was blown probably from when I was using the printer interface about a year ago, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, when I plugged it in, and apparently I guess it overloaded the fuse and it popped. So obviously the solution is simple. I certainly did have to reseat the chips anyway, but I think that when I accidentally damaged the SID when I was taking out to reseat it, I think that kind of did it in. And of course the soldering it didn't help because it was already compromised. So what I'm going to do is I have 2 choices. I can either just buy a whole new computer, or I can buy just a chip. And there's also something now called SwinSID. I could actually call it. It's a software-based SID emulation chip. It goes in where the SID was, and it's a lot cheaper. It's using embedded controllers. It's a little tiny PC board that goes into the SID socket. I just don't know if I'm going to go there or not. I haven't heard anything particularly bad about the chip, but I haven't really heard anything good about it either. So, except the good thing is the price is cheaper. but it's not an original SID. That's not the only chip that you can buy a replacement for. There's also a replacement for the PLA chip, also being available through software. Now, why don't we talk about something a little bit more exciting? Okay, what about the eye drops? Oh, yes, that was on my purchase list. Okay, the can't-see eye drops. I found a few supplies. I'm thinking about buying 2 boxes instead of 1. Okay, because that way you can have an extra box on hand. You're right, so that you can go. Because it really worked really well for my eyes, but since I haven't been using it for the last few weeks, my eyes are starting to cloud up again. So I'm gonna have to get some more of that stuff. Especially my right eye. Like right now, the light's giving me problems with the right eye. You're talking about incandescent? Yes. Okay. Oh, the right eye is all fuzzed up again. Left eye is starting to fuzz up too, so I gotta get some more can't-see eye drops. I went down to the low vision specialist, and they told me that I could get cataract surgery, which I told them very nicely that I was not interested in any kind of surgical procedure because of the fact that when I'm nystagmus, it would just add too much complications to the procedure. In addition to that, like I told them, it's too risky for a person with nystagmus anyway. You can't hit a moving target, no matter what you do. So I kind of just turned down the idea of surgery. And also because the fact that you have to take like 5 or 6 medications in the morning and 5 or 6 medications at night. And you gotta wear a special eye cup, eye patch, all the stuff. Hey, right? And you gotta do one eye at a time, which is fine. But the fact of the matter is that it's just even though it's supposed to be an improved procedure, I don't think it's worth the risks involved to go for cataract surgery to fix my eyes. With cancer eye drops, have been doing a wonderful job. If I continue to keep taking them, if I don't take my eye drops, obviously they don't work forever. But, right now, like my life, I got enough things to worry about. I don't have the time to sit there and chew over every single last dingleberry. Okay? There's just too much things in my life to deal with. And when you don't have family, you don't have support people, you have to do everything your own. There's no way you can afford to be down for a week. I mean, that could be very debilitating. That could be very, very frustrating. So I wasn't interested in that. And the way we're using the informal studio today is because the formal studio is a rat mess. It is full of papers, soldering, wires, connectors, plugs, jacks, things like that. Because I'm working on something. And I'm going to go right and get something in that studio. I want to show you what I'm working on. And by the way, this is the Commodore 64. And even if I don't buy a new computer, I'm still going to build this anyway, but it's going to cost me almost as much as the SID chip. Let me just show you what it is. Okay. What I have here is a project I'm working on. It looks like a standard ATX power supply, and you would be right. It was an ATX power supply. Except this one was one that got overheated and burned out. What I'm going to do is we're going to be installing in this series guts for a brand new homemade Commodore 64 64C power supply. And this bad boy is going to have the capacity to spare. Inside there will be a large 70-watt transformer, a rectifier bridge assembly, which I actually already have installed. There's a big massive heatsink in here. You can't really see it, but we could if I took the cover off it. And it's got your standard CEE power plug on it. Right over here, we're going to put in a fuse for electrical safety. And I was thinking of where I could put an electric switch. I haven't figured that out yet. Probably maybe over here on the front, because I want to leave this whole back part either A, with no electronics at all in it on the back plate. So when you take it apart, everything is inside here, and that we can get easy probe it and things. And that will be installing a couple of the cold terminal strips that holds all the electricals, and it also will provide electrical safety as well. This is an old compact power supply. So it says right inside here, compact. I haven't figured out how to get this damn label off yet, but I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Maybe what I could do is I could soak it in vinegar and something and get that off if I really want. Or I just put my homie label right on it. So say, the Beast, the power supply from hell. But the Commodore 64 70-watt power supply is quite a bit of a rating. It's more than the standard Commodore 64 power supply. So that's the project for coming up. I gotta get the parts to go in there for the Beast, and some of the parts got to come from China, and some of them has to go from the U.S. And no, I haven't gotten the adapter yet. I'm still waiting for the piece from China, which is the pigtail that allows me to plug my stereo quarter-inch plug headphones into my iPhone. I bought this adapter instead of buying those little tiny little things you see, because the pigtail will be better, because that way it won't risk the thing getting damaged. Because once you realize how heavy a standard stereo cable is from headphones, from the 70s, it's really very likely that you can seriously damage the plug, especially if you happen to be using it on an iPhone. You're going to be carrying it with you, and you don't want to have some plug snap off in your headset. So, Jack, so you don't really want to deal with it. You know, that's a funny story. I want to talk to you about that. You know, I grew up in the 80s. I certainly spent most of my middle school and high school years in the 80s, so therefore I can certainly speak from the 80s experience, because I was right at the heat of it. And there was a lot of interesting times. There was a lot of research and strange behaviors and rock and roll. It was pretty good music and hair bands, and oh man, I was part of that scene. I was just like every other kid in the 80s, jamming to the Bangles and to listening to like George Michael from Wham, and singing Careless Whispers that Wake Me Up Before You Go, and you know, Twisted Sisters, We're Not Gonna Take It. That was a really kind of my anthem song from the 80s, because it spoke to me when I was in sophomore. I think it was a sophomore in high school at the time. It really spoke to me. I think you were in 8th grade. Because I remember you were watching your parents' house in Hartford. Okay, yeah, probably was. Anyway, the point is that it was a very different time than now. And there was no ISIS, there was no Hamas, there was no Boko Haram. There was just, I mean, sure, we had the Cold War with Russia, but that was pretty much just kind of a excuse to spend money to make weapons, that's all. But, I mean, it was, 80s was a wonderful time. It was the last trains to Clarksville, basically. I mean, there really hasn't been anything like the 80s since the 80s. And, I mean, sure, I'm sure that today's kids might say is, well, my age at the time, you know, when they were about 13, 14, they say is, well, the 2014 ain't bad either. Yeah, the 2014 is nothing compared to 1980, trust me. The 80s was a really different time. And I miss those times, because it was a fun time to be alive. And growing up and going to high school. And we still had Saturday morning cartoons, too. Although they were starting to get stupid in the end. Yeah. Well, of course, now we don't have cartoons in the mornings and Saturdays. The major networks don't have any. Might have some on PBS now and then, but that's about it. But anyway, so the point is I want to bring it back to the 21st century for now, because I'm going to bring it up to one thing where it's funny to bring up a computer 30 years ago is still highly sought after, highly collector item. It wasn't the only computer in the 80s, of course. I mean, there was a lot of them. There was the Amstrad, there was the Acorn, there was the BBC, there was the Technicolor Computer 3, which came out in the late 80s. I think it was late 80s. I think it was later than that, wasn't it? Maybe. I don't know, but they definitely had the Coco too. Yeah. Okay. And, of course, we had the Apple II, which was still expensive as hell back then. Apple II GS came out in the late, actually in the 90s, I think, early 90s. The ZX81, the Timex Sinclair 1000, the VIC-20, those are just some of the computers in the 80s that I remember off the top of my head. And they really did make a big difference. People loved rocking with them. They were doing all kinds of creative things then. But today, they're doing even more, especially with the Commodore 64. The Technicolor Computer 3 is still being developed for, but it's a very small crowd. It was a small crowd in the 80s too. The Commodore 64 was the big one. Everybody, including your cousin, had one. Some of them used it, some of them didn't, some of them just simply had to sit there on the shelf and do nothing. But for those of us that did use it, like I said in my last video demo showing you the computer, I was not into the game scene. I was more into developing productivity software. How staid can you be? I can write you a word processor. I don't want a word processor. I want to shoot him on Maxing Aid. How am I going to shoot him on my word processor? What is that? Well, you look for bad spellings in your words, and then you fire the joystick and you blow them up. Actually, that sounds kind of cool. That sounds kind of like there was a game called that, Word Blaster. It's just kind of like that. But so what you would blow up the bad words, or rather, you would blow up the misspelled words. But since you're talking about spelling word processor, then obviously they'll show you a list of words you can replace it with. I do it now with 10.4 Fox on my Mac. Yeah, it's kind of funny to think about how much computers have really not changed. Like I was talking about with computer diversity, it's also funny to talk about how computers have changed. Let's talk about that. The Commodore 64 computer, okay? And yes, its child, its son, if you will, the Commodore 128. There were a few others, but those are two I'm going to talk about right now, since those are the two most popularly well known. Really made an era in the 80s. And, that and its Commodore 1541 that sounds like a semi-automatic machine gun when it's formatting. You know why it does it, don't you? No. Because there's no track 0 sensor on the drive. Oh. But if it's in cancellation loom, even on a Technicolor computer, when you use the FT502, when you format a disk, unless you actually preset it to track 0 before you format the disk, it will do the same thing. Because it keeps trying to read right back to track 0. But in case of the Technicolor computer, it has no excuse. Why is that? Because the color computer already has a track 0 sensor. It just turns out the format routine doesn't look at the status of it before it starts formatting the disk. Okay, but in this case, the Commodore 1541 original, there was no track 0 sensor. There's no index hole sensor either. Which would make sense since it's soft sectored disks, and hard sectored. Although, they could have easily had an index hole sensor. I think the newer ones did, didn't they? I think so. I think the 1541-2 did have both. But I could be wrong on that. I know the 1571 did. So anyway, I've been looking at a couple different projects that I want to build because, it's going to be spring is coming and my season is just about up in about 20 days. And so I'm trying to think of projects to do for the next few months during the hot, halcyon dog days of summer. Some of you might love summer. I can't stand it. But you know what? It's okay. So we'll have to see when it goes. By the way, let me ask you a question. Okay, now, summer's coming up. What's your plans? I think my plans for the summer is to start working on emotionally detoxifying my life. Emotionally detoxifying your life. I want to get back into doing something fun. I want to enjoy my life. And to me, that's important. I want to go out there and have a fun time. And that's what I want to work on. In other words, I've been sitting in this house now all winter long for the most part, instead of going out to the soup kitchen on occasion. I still kind of miss Ed and Tony. I really kind of wish they were still around, but they're not. So, I've been trying to do things on my own and try to get my life back together with you. Right. And, by the way, Dory and I don't think we're going to be hooking up as a couple. I don't think she's ready for that yet. And I'm not going to wait forever for that. So, besides, I already got you. Thank you. I appreciate that. By the way, the Facebook has changed its sexual preferences panel. So now, instead of you trying to fill out one of 52 choices, you can now fill out whatever gender you consider yourself. Ouch. Ouch. I haven't tried to change my gender from female yet. Because I think it would be enough of a confusion as it is. But, guess you can change it if you really don't know what to call yourself. Like pansexual, asexual, bisexual, trisexual? Trisexual? Why not? Trisexual, okay. No sexual? How about no sex? I have sex. No, I know what you mean. Okay, you don't like to have sex. Right, well, because this is a kind of a PG video, we're going to try to keep it, clean for that reason. I don't want to go into all the gory details. If you want that kind of detail, you can go to Pornhub. Okay. So anyway, the point is that you can change your sexual designation on Facebook, I guess, for Americans now, to whatever you consider yourself by filling in the blank by writing in your favorite sexual designation. For me, I'm not really too interested in it. By the way, I finally found the people for the mammogram finally called me 3 months later. Yes, and I do have an appointment scheduled for my mammogram. So I'm going to get that done on the 10th of March. Hopefully it's not going to be cold, clammy, snowy, wet, rainy day that day. I was have to cancel. I wouldn't cancel too soon. You know what I would do is, in case, since it was your doctor's office that made the appointment, maybe you should call the doctor's office up and get the number directly of the radiology department and get that and ask them if they could change the appointment if necessary. You could do that, yeah. By the way, a mammogram is not exactly a big deal procedure-wise. Maybe it's a big deal if you're self-conscious of, how much boobs you got, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, really. You place your boobs on this platform on a special X-ray machine, and then a glass thing comes down and squashes it flat as possible. The purpose of that is so that they can get a good clean X-ray, and you take it from two positions from each breast. So it's not really like, it's really hard to do. I mean, I'm going to find it pretty interesting to see how it done, because I've never been through a mammogram before. So, I mean, it'll be worthwhile. Make sure I don't have any unwanted nasties in my body, which would not surprise me if I do, because unfortunately cancer runs in my family in a lot of areas. Prostate cancer for the men, cervical cancer, skin cancer, all kinds of cancer. Lung cancer, definitely. My dad died from complications from prostate and lung cancer, and so I can certainly hear my dad yelling from the heavenly host, "Please go for the mammogram, Michelle. Please save yourself the pain, suffering from chemo." I will do my best. I'll do my best, Dad. I will do my best. And in fact, I got the appointment already scheduled, so it's all set to go. I just got to show up, be there. And by the way, his ear is doing better today, too. It's still bumpy. But he's got, he's not getting as much of a wax buildup in it. Yeah. Okay, so this cat's been having a wax buildup issue with his ear, and because something's irritating it. I thought it was that old growth in his ear. It's not. It's a big pustule from God knows when. It's a bruise. It's full of blood and dried out. It's still sensitive there though, but okay. It doesn't hurt him any. I might just gonna get a chance if I bring him down to the vet, have the vet look at it, and maybe decide to deal with the problem and remove it from his ear, because that probably would be. I think it'd make him a lot happier. He's happy now, but by the way, I'm glad to say that all those who are happy to see snow is pretty much coming to an end are probably happy too. I'm really happy that you're happy. But please remember one thing I told you in October, and I'm going to stand by what I said then and what I said now. I told you this winter was going to be hard. I did not tell you this winter was going to be gloriously easy. I gave you a break at the beginning of winter, in the month up to my season, up through December. And then January, when my season ramped up, I said it was going to be nasty and cold. And it was. But now the season is over, and I am wrapping up for the year. So you're going to start to see the temperatures go above 0 degrees Celsius. Right now, I don't think it's that cold out there, is it? I don't know. How cold is it? I have no idea. I don't either. So, let me go take a look at the temperature. According to my thermometer outside right now, it is 0 degrees Celsius. Actually, it's a tenth of a degree below 0. But it's, given the tolerance of the thermometer, let's just say what it is. 0 degrees Celsius outside. It's a pretty good number anyway. So right now, it's warm enough that the snow is gonna start to melt, which is great. But I'm gonna tell you a secret. I'm going to be looking forward to a nice, mild spring. If I could have a mild summer where it's not too hot, I'd be happy. Right? You want a summer that's cooler. I want a summer that's cool, but not so annoyingly so. Something that's where you can have. This is my season, so I don't have any control over the game. But I definitely would like the weather steward. What are you doing? Being nosy. I would like to have the summer weather steward keep in mind that some of us like a mild, cool summer. I don't mind 75 to 80 degrees in the summer. I can handle that. It's that's Fahrenheit. Which is like about 23 degrees Celsius. I can handle that without too much of a problem. But once you start getting the relative humidity is close to 90 to 100%, the gloves are off. Okay? I don't really want a really hot summer. I like a mild summer. But I don't have any control over that except put a request in, and that's all I can do. I originally was going to ask Mom if she wanted me to do summer again this year. She told me that she already had somebody scheduled for the summers, or for spring, so she doesn't need me to do spring this year. She was really impressed with the fact that I did do a good job last year for spring, but, she could tell I really wasn't particularly enjoying myself very much at all, because the fact was that spring just isn't my season. It's not my first love. By the way, the new hard drive is working fine on the computer here. In fact, we're going to be, we have that set up such a way that we got a huge space available for program development. And what are you doing? In case you can't see the cat, I'll show you what he's doing. Come here. Oh. How are you doing? How do you do it? Okay, come on. Now, by the way, I'm also very impressed happy to see that 7 viewers had liked that short little Commodore 64 demo, even though it was kind of crappy. It was more me talking about my past, and I admit it wasn't in the greatest quality. I'm a little bit disappointed that my sound card doesn't work on it. I'm going to definitely fix that, but I definitely want to build this power supply thing, because I think that'll be a good insurance policy. It's going to cost me as much money to buy the pieces to finish this project as it will to buy the new SID chip for the computer. So obviously I'm thinking about building this power supply first, because it'll be an insurance policy. At least I can say, kind of sounds like something kind of like from the Maytag repair commercial. What's that? Guy goes up to the guy's old computer house. It's just a busted plug. Yep, I could have fixed it myself. Then why'd you call me? A kid kind of lonely out here. Lonely? Oh yeah, I know what you mean by that. And I'm paraphrasing the original commercial from Maytag, which was about a guy, a lighthouse keeper calls up the Maytag repair guy to fix his washing machine. Dishwasher. Thank you. The point is lighthouse keeper said to himself I could use a company anyway, so I'll call him anyway. You know what surprises me is the fact is that, like you said, is that I never realized that Michelle can read German. She's sitting through reading German websites on the Commodore 64. She was having trouble with some of the verbs, but she was going through them, and she had a good comprehension that was I don't know, about 70%, which is surprising. She never even took German at school. Well, German is very much like English, so that's why. There's a couple words, spelling's different. The structure and stuff is pretty much the key part of the English language. Okay. In fact, unfortunately, a lot of information that I was looking for on the Commodore 64 scene was only in German. I couldn't read Polish, though. I actually got one website that was in Polish, and I could not, for the life of me, quite make heads or tails of what I was reading. Right. Like I said, it's predominantly funny because it seems to be that the Commodore 64 scene is primarily, as I said earlier, is in Eastern Europe and while there's some American and some British fan sites, they're not quite the major deal. Right. So again, it's funny. I didn't even think that the Commodore 64 was still being developed. It's technically still being developed for after 30 years. It's gotta be a record. It has to be. I'd like to see. I would love to see somebody take the old, go ahead and buy the rights to the Commodore name and the logo, and come up where Commodore left off. Commodore's history is a strange mix of owners and corporate takeovers and sponsors. Even Compaq had it for a while. Really? Yep. The first thing is that I mean, if you were designing a Commodore computer, what would you build and how? Why? I think because of the fact that what made the Commodore 64 so popular was its fairly open structure. And the fact is that Commodore business machines didn't quite screw the cover shut and not give information. They didn't have any NDAs. They did on the ROMs, I think, but they, for the most cases, made it readily available for people to create products. With everything else is documented in the programmer's reference manual for the 64 and the 128. You could design add-ons, plugins, whatever kind of things. The home computers kind of was an interesting situation. It was kind of a hacker's paradise. The good kind of hackering. Yeah, the bad kind too, but mostly the good ones. Who like to build and create things. And also, there was a home computer, so people could use it to balance their books. They could use it to play video games, things like that. I would probably add a couple things to my version of the Commodore, which obviously bring it up to the 21st century. First thing would be is I'd have to really consider what kind of a processor family I'd want to use. Okay? Maybe something similar to an ARM chip. ARM? Yeah, because it's inexpensive, it's low energy. And maybe one that offers 6502 emulation, 6510 emulation. Why couldn't you go ahead and get the dies and make some new MOS semiconductors? Well, I guess if I had the money, I could do that. Do something like NEC did it with the V20 chip, which is to create a dual family chip that could actually handle two different things at the same time, where you could handle the 6510 instructions and maybe say an 8080 instruction set. See, the NEC V20 chip, not to get confused with the Commodore VIC-20, was a CMOS based 8086, 8088, which was based, the concept V20 is 8088, which has got the 8088 instructions in software firmware. In other words, it's not etched and carved in stone, like the original 6502 and the 6510 and even the 8088 and the 8086 had. So they were soft instructions. So they had enough room in the masks to add some other instructions. So they added a whole other mode, which is that supports the Zilog. Supports the Zilog Z80. Really? Yep. Which was a great thing for those people who want to use things like 22 Nice and my Z80 on a PC. Is you put the chip in there, and in most cases, it would work fine for those applications. I don't know all the details. I just know that it was kind of cool. But because of the special V20 mode, it actually made this chip kind of a very special sought-after chip. You've had an older PC that could run it. Unfortunately, for some of the PCs in the market, the Rainbow 100 comes to mind, which has a real honest-to-God Z80 chip in there. Running even this chip in CPM88 or MS-DOS emulation mode, because the Rainbow 100 could do MS-DOS, I believe, but it gets kind of confusing. To make it simple explanation more confusing. So basically, it was just kind of those interesting things that these companies came up with back then. Let me talk to you also about the eye. My eye. Mr. Fuzzed out right eye. Oh, God, yes. I gotta fix that. It was so much better when I was taking the medication. Yeah. You're right. Your left eye's getting fuzzy too again. Yeah, so I'm going to get some of that. And like I said, I might buy 2 boxes of it. By the way, I still like your power supply idea. I'm talking about Michele's recycling an old broken ATX power supply and making it into a brand new Commodore 64 power supply. I mean, you got the perfect notch right here for where you can put the DIN plug. Yep. Drill holes, zip, zip, mount it right there for the 7-pin DIN plug, making a cable to plug into the computer, and I think it'll be a great wow project. Yeah, I think it'll be too. You'll have to make some more of these candle holders also. I will. Oh, by the way, what are you going to be doing? I have no idea. I keep planning to, and then I keep changing my mind. It's like, I don't think my videos sell as well. Your videos do better than mine, though. You got more people watching you. The Commodore 64 one you did really did well for you. I mean, 8 viewers so far. 8 viewers is a drop in the bucket. The videos that really do good was the one on the Ouija board and the TTY-TDD demo, and also the Intelli modem unboxing and testing. Right, which, let me sure revisit that. Really? Really? Why not? Yeah, okay. By the way, one thing I have an idea about, since I have 2 of these, is, I mentioned this before, okay? I'm going to just talk about this again really quickly. I'm trying to get wrap up a lot of videos. Here we have this thingy. I showed you this before. This is the other one I have at home. And even though it's got screws, I wonder what if I take the screws out of this. Why? So I can plug this straight into the back of the modem without having to plug in an extension cord. Oh! That's a good idea! Didn't think of that. Can you do it? Yeah, I don't know. Probably. There's probably nuts in there, though. There's nuts in there. Yeah. Well, still. I like your idea. I think so. In fact, I might even say, like you said, well, anyway, for those of you who don't know how long the wire on this is, if we're talking about for using a standard analog modem on our Hayes modem on a computer, this is more than adequately long. If you have this plug right into the back of the modem, like this, and then you have this cord plugged into your USB port like this, there's no reason why you need to plug another USB cable on top of this thing and make the cord like this freaking yay long, especially if the modem's right there on the desk right next to you. That's what I'm saying is, to me is that I might want to just, if I can safely take this apart, pop the cover off it, and see it sonically well, but yeah. You didn't pay a lot for this. I didn't get it for free. I know that, but I mean, you didn't pay a lot for it. I'm not going to pay a lot for this. There's 232 in the race. I guarantee it. Does it again. Wasn't it George Foreman commercial originally for Midas? I think so. I'm not going to pay a lot for this muffler. I don't have a car, so I guess I can pay a lot for a muffler. Yeah, you need to see it, Hokey, but your car muffler is going to cost you about $100, $200, $400 for installation. It's okay, Ding. I don't got a car. Okay. So yeah. By the way, one other thing we are going to explore, and this is something we can do right now. Oh God. Dum 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 dum. We are going to explore putting up another bulletin board. What? Why not? Another one? Yeah. Like the first one? Yeah. With Fido? Maybe. Why? Why not? Give me a good reason. I already got the phone line? Right. I already got the computer? Right. I got the time. Oh yes, you got the time. I got the time. I got the coffee. Okay, that sounds like an idea. Absolutely, gonna get that done. I'm thinking I'll be probably. Now here's a question I want to ask you guys. Here we go. Now, your question for today. By the time somebody's going to probably play this, probably going to be next December. You watch. I get replies to comments from videos from years after I did them. So I'm going to try to be honest with you here. I don't have any particular rush out and do this project. I definitely want to do it, but I'm not going to rush out there and do it right now. So here's the deal. I want to know, if I do put another bulletin board up, is number one is, what do you want for a bulletin board? What kinds of things would you like to see? Now we're talking about a dial-up bulletin board, and we might even have a couple notes on the internet as well, but it will be primarily focusing on dial-up bulletin board. I'm not interested in using Synchronet. Sorry guys, I know Synchronet has been highly regarded, and I used Synchronet for many years, but your message-based structure was just alien enough for me that I could not enjoy it. Okay. What about, would you use Linux or MS-DOS bulletin board? I like Linux for this because I can have multiple nodes going at once, and as long as the script is generic enough that I can support multiple nodes, it would work really well. If I used MS-DOS, I could probably use Maximus. Get the newest source code from Maximus, which is open source now. Get the newest source code for Squish and the FileNet Nodeless compiler. And then we could probably get the bulletin board back up on the internet, and still support FileNet. And MS-DOS, I would have to get the BNU 170 fossil, and that'll be a project for the future. Right now, I got enough projects on my plate now for the summer. So first project this summer is, if I do not get a Commodore 64 computer, and I do not, then I'm up for grabs to either A, finish this power supply. I think that would be a great idea to do that. It's going to cost about as much as the third one, which is the SID chip. Right, but power supply replacement also would be a really nice kind of, accomplishment for my life too. So this definitely would be a good consideration for future projects. Right. Now, in addition to that, the Commodore 64 and the Commodore 128. Okay. So that's one project. Project 2 is to possibly put the bulletin board together this summer. It'll be a good summer project, and I think it'll be a nice refresher for those people, especially for the kids of today that never grew up with the days of bulletin boards. Probably wonder why some people of the 80s talk about them with so much fondness. Unfortunately, bulletin boards are also a lot of work to maintain. I know that from experience. I've been a bulletin board operator for a long time. But I certainly enjoyed the people. I used to talk to them and chat, and I used to have a good time with them. And as we get farther and more advanced into the computer scene, and the fact is that the modem I have, such as the Zoom modem I have, also has a fax modem capability, can actually detect each one, install with the proper VGETI, and you can actually suburban faxes. And only thing is, I can't figure out how we're going to do the TDD support. Tricky. Actually, I got an idea. Oh, okay. But that's another project for later on. Yeah, don't get too many projects going planned for the summer. Okay. The other thing I want to consider getting is those SD2 IECs, compact flash card readers, SD card readers. There also you have something that's a little more expensive, and it's got some people that like it very much, is the IDE 64. IDE 64 is an IDE hard drive interface for the Commodore 64. Has a few extra features as well. It uses standard IDE hard drive, and probably with one of my SATA to ID adapters. It will also probably work with them as well. I don't know how big the hard drive limitation is on the IDE 64, but given the fact that the number of files on the Commodore 64 images are really tiny, you probably can easily get away with like a 20 megabyte or 40 megabyte or 40 megabyte. Hell, you can get away with a 10 megabyte. That's true, but I don't think I've ever seen a 10 megabyte IDE drive. I haven't either. But I got a couple power supplies that would work great for that. Because remember the USB hard drive controllers that went up in smoke? The FireWire ones? Right, but the power supplies are good. The power supplies are fine. So what I could do is strip the wires back, mount them into a standard Molex plug, and then mount them into the case directly wired, and then I would have a nice little power cable going back out. Say, for example, a standard SATA cable, or using a standard IDE cable going to the interface, kind of like you used to do with your Coco with the Birkenberg Coco XT. Yeah, pretty much. For those of you who don't know what the hell that was one of my other computers I had. That was my first computer. A hard drive I ever had that I personally and fondly remember was the Birkenberg Coco XT RTC interface, which was on my Technicolor computer 2 and 3. That was really awesome. And the 2, I didn't use it with a hard drive because what happened was I couldn't fire the controller. So I bought the interface ahead of time, but I didn't buy the actual PC control, 8-bit control that went in there until I got a Coco 3. I think I did have it with a 2, I think, didn't I? Not that I remember, but maybe the very late area did. Yeah, maybe the very. By the way, that's one thing about the Technicolor computer too, is talking about history. I don't think the Coco 2 was as expandable as the Commodore 64 was. It didn't have a user port, and it didn't have. It had a cartridge port, yes, but unfortunately, it seemed to be that the people over there in Tandy kind of kept a lid on it, if you will. There was magazines like Rainbow, which was the only known magazine at the time that covered Technicolor computers, and I think a few other companies too, but that was about it. Rainbow magazine was the major magazine. I used to have one. As I said, I used to be an avid subscriber to Rainbow. So the point is, in the 80s, I grew up playing around with all this different technology. I still kind of wish I had never put my Commodore 64 in the closet. I really, really wish I didn't do that. I really, really should have kept it up and running. But I was moving around so many times back in the 80s, I didn't know if I was coming or going. And last time I used the Commodore 64, when I was still living in my parents' house, it was full-time usership, was around 1989. And then I was going more for the Coco. And maybe 88. Yeah, probably. Okay. And then I grew up in the sense, well, maybe not so much for the good sense, but I grew up and I put those computers away, and then I got stuck using a PC clone for a while, which I didn't like as much. I didn't like the fact that it didn't feel the same. Okay? So, it was just something about the PC. I just could not wrap my head. It just, the love wasn't there. Right. But then, of course, I got myself a Mac, and someone dropped me off a Macintosh 6100. which I did not have a power supply for. I mean, I did not have a mouse and keyboard for it, so I couldn't use it right away. And I didn't have the video adapter for it because like the Performance it was, the pizza box, it had a weird HDI 45-pin connector, and I didn't have the adapter. Now I have the same machine with the connector, and it's still sitting in the closet. The most amazing thing about that computer was once I got it working, especially when I was living in Fred Richards, once I got it working, I sat there and I was using that computer for so many things. From using ClarisWorks for word processing to, I think I had it connected up to my internet, but I'm not really sure how I know I still have the Asante FriendlyNet adapter. It was a really, really major deal for me. It was a wonderful thing, those days. When you were a Fred Richards, were you using Category 5? Were you using Twisted Pair or coax? I don't remember now. I think I didn't use anything at that time. But I'll have to think about it. But the point is I know I had internet connection on some of the computers. I think I was using coax. Really? Yeah. I don't think I had my Mac plugged into the network at the time, though. I think they came a lot later on. But anyway, the point is all these computers I experienced really kind of gave me a lot of years of experience with the computers that I use today. Right. And I think right now, you've got to wrap this. I think we've got to wrap this up. I think this is getting really long in the tooth. Yeah, I think it is too. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you all for watching this video. And please do not forget to like or dislike. Share with your friends and enemies, please. I mean, your enemies have a right to enjoy it. They might like them, they may not. Okay, it's the same deal, okay? Subscribe if you've not already done so. I'm going to be editing more videos soon. Promise you that. And so let me. If you want to reach me, you can always comment below. But you can also email me directly at bicehela3@gmail.com, or let me finish at LUMIFINISTRA@gmail.com. And of course, Mr. Cat. Yeah, you're still good. You're still good, my neighborhood. Okay. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you very much for watching this long video. And by the way, what was your experience with your computers? Do you have things that you remember from when you were younger that you did? Especially for those of you from the 80s, this should be easy to fill in the blanks. For those of you in the later eras, I'm sure you can come up with things too. Oh, by the way, there are several versions of the Frozen LP soundtrack available in vinyl. Yes, we saw them. And some of the prices are a lot less expensive than the deluxe edition. There's a couple picture discs. There's also a couple of standard vinyl record sets. I'm gonna definitely looking forward to getting Frozen the songs, which is not picture disc one. It's just the standard vinyls because that would be kind of cool to have. Yeah, playing Let It Go on a turntable sounds like fun. There you go. All right, guys. So that's it for now. Talk to you later. Bye bye.